Welcome back to Hardball. So what were the biggest political lies of 2009? The year's about to end. We got to keep score. The editors of PolitiFact.com have ranked them based on readers' responses. PolitiFact is a Pulitzer Prize-winning fact-checking website of the great St. Petersburg Times. And the most outrageous lies get their lowest rating. Joining us now from the New York Observer, Steve Kornacki. He's been on before. And Politico's Jonathan Martin. Guys, it's great having you on for a little fun here at the end of the year. One of the biggest lies of 2009, ironically, is an accusation of lying itself. Here he is, Congressman Joe Wilson, known only for this, interrupting President Obama as the president addressed a joint session of Congress. Let's listen.
The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegally. It's not true.
You know, guys, there should have been one of those Austin Powers seats in that room right then. You know, when it goes down into the ground and he's alive but he's badly burnt kind of thing. I'm sorry. What should have happened to that guy? Your thoughts?
Not what happened. You mentioned, you know, it's the only thing anybody's ever heard about him. Well, nobody heard anything about him before. Now he's got an extra $2 million in the bank for 2010. He's a hero to the right. You know, he sort of had to apologize, but he got to say, well, you know, I apologize for going too far. But yeah, in one way, you know, listen, Charles Sumner got beat to within an inch of his life 150 years ago on the Senate floor, so maybe this is a little better than that.
Well,
but still, it's a
Jonathan, my worst fear is that he knew he'd have this kind of right-wing backup when he did it. He didn't sit alone when he did that. He said, I'm going to have a lot of people pat me on the back if I say the president's a liar.
I don't know if it was premeditated, but there's no question that by saying that, he's become a folk hero on the right. But also, his opponent down in South Carolina, who wasn't given a shot before this incident, has now raised quite a bit of money himself, and there may actually be something of a competitive race now down. But the memorable thing from that moment, Chris, that look on Speaker Pelosi's face, unforgettable.
Yeah, well, I think she was what you'd expect from a speaker, because I worked up there for years on the Hill.
Right.
And there was a certain amount of respect that came to the President of the United States when he is invited to speak to a joint session of Congress.
It was a how dare you kind of look.
Well,
right?
I'm with her. Let's take a look. Here's the birthers. Talk about lies. What do you make of this? You first, John. This is a lie that's out there. Even Hillary Clinton said, as far as I know, or one of those lines when this came up. What do we make of this obsession with certain people who believe that you can't find the birth certificate, at least the certificate they want to find, therefore this guy's an alien. An illegal alien ought to be kicked out of the country, basically.
Yeah, I think, Chris, it's a vehicle for those who just do not want to believe that this president is legitimate, so that they sort of, you know, grasp onto this, that, no, this is not our reality because he's not an American somehow. So it's a way to convince yourself that he's not really your president. But, I mean, I think it sort of exposes some of the most extreme and, frankly, scary elements on the right wing of this country right now.
Steve?
Yeah, I tell you, it gave rise to...
Is this a Rorschach test for sanity?
Well, I'll tell you...
Is this something that you, I mean, as Mike Huckabee said, if he were really not born in the United States, don't you think Hillary Clinton would have used it against him? Don't you think any politician would have used it against him?
I think most rational people can put it to rest, and put it to rest a long time ago and never even really considered it. But it did give rise to one of the funniest and most creative things I saw in the year 2009.
SNL?
And that is, there's a website that came up that took the fake birth certificate that Orly Tate's put out there, and you can go and you put your own personal information in, and you get your own Kenyan birth certificate. So now,
you can create these things as a joke.
I am now a native-born Kenyan. Just like some believe our president is.
Okay, let's go to the big one that really caused a lot of stink. The lie of the year went to Sarah Palin's claim that the president had a health care reform plan which included the creation of death panels. She wrote on her Facebook, "The America I know and love is not one in which my parents or my baby with Down syndrome will have to stand in front of Obama's death panel so his bureaucrats can decide whether they are worthy of health care." So she told her people out there that the President of the United States was going to create panels to go around and tell you to die. If you're old, they're going to say, pull the plug yourself. If you've got a kid who is born with problems, they'll say, don't feed it. This is what she's saying.
This is the year,
This is a lie?
I think this is the year, I hope it is, this is the year that I think we discovered how irrational a good chunk of the public is. Not the majority, not an overwhelming chunk, but, you know, there was that 30% that all through the Bush years held on and said, no, he's a great president, he's a great president. There's that 30% that believes in death panels, or that 30% that believes he's from Kenya. And with Obama in particular...
Well, let's be fair. There's also a good percentage of the country out there, small but real, that believes he had one of those plungers. And he blew up the World Trade Centers. Okay, they're out there.
All sorts of conspiracy theories. But they've really come to the fore this past year with Obama. He's brought out something to people, and we've really seen it.
Jonathan, death panels, the biggest lie of the year, according to the St. Petersburg Times website.
Chris, there's a larger issue here, and that is that there's increasingly less of a sense of shared facts and a shared truth in this country on left and right. And without that, without a Cronkite figure out there that we all sort of know and trust, the fact is that some people in American society are going to want to believe death panels, because if you say that it's not true, then they're going to just criticize you and say, well, you're just biased, you don't like Sarah Palin. So
well, you're young, Jonathan. Let me tell you, in the old days, the John Birch, you're right, would not have believed Walter Cronkite. Let me tell you, he was the enemy to them. They would have said, oh, yeah, CBS News told me. Right.
But it was a much smaller fraction back then. It's now an enlarged group in this country where there's no set of shared facts. And I think it's a very dangerous element out there.
Well, there's platforms now that didn't exist in the past for this stuff to get out there, like this birth certificate thing. You know, Orly Tates could go and find some website that put up what she claimed was an authentic Obama Kenyan birth certificate, and the next thing you know, 1,000 right-wing blogs are linking to it, and there's 1 million people in the country that believe there's a smoking gun proof that Obama's from Kenya. And never in the past, you know, would that stuff have made it through the filter of a Walter Cronkite or of New York Times, anything like that. But all these alternative platforms have sprung up, and people can go to there and believe the facts they believe are facts that come from there.
But we've gotten to the point in this country where people in the mainstream, or at least close to the mainstream, believe the government would euthanize youth and elderly. That's a pretty scary place to be if we have folks that are actually believing that right now. But what's fascinating, Governor Palin, by the way, now instead of putting out that charge, she now phrases the issue of death panels in more of a question sort of format. So on her Facebook page, she will say, how about death panels? Are they still in this health care bill? So she's not making the accusation anymore. She's sort of walking it back now, just floating. It's just sort of a question out there as to whether or not it's still in the bill.
To borrow a phrase from my colleague Keith, the worst people in the world are not those who believe this crap. The worst people in the world are those who pander to those who do and play to them, who say they might be right. They may have something there, whether it's left or right, whether it's the birthers, it's the truthers. Politicians love to not be honest and say, you people are full of crap. Grow up, get some brains, and stop talking to me till you have one. Anyway, thank you, Steve Kornacki. Thank you, Jonathan Martin.